Okay, here we are back with a setup change. I'm going to put this barrel, the cylinder, the jug, whatever we choose to call it, on and see how well that goes. So I've cleaned the gasket up, looks good there, and we'll just put the gasket on. Now I'm putting it on this way to show you that it lines up quite nicely and we're ready to go. However, Kohler for some reason decided to make these asymmetrical, in that if I put it on this way, these two don't line up at the top. Curious, but that's just the way they've done it. The bolt pattern here, the 4-bolt pattern, is the same, but up here they've made one of the bolts, it looks like a little higher in terms of where it is. Okay, so that'll go on there like that. I will turn the crank out and I check the position so that we don't start pushing out the tappets. And next step is to just put it on. Okay, I've cleaned both surfaces, they're fairly clean and dry. We'll just lift the connecting rod into place, look for an alignment, a little higher, a little bit to the left, and looks like it feels like it's starting. I don't want to pull the lower oil ring out, and there we go. That's in place and it's supported through my block. Next thing we'll do is take the retainer and see if we can't get that in. Hate these things because they spring away on you. Get that in place there. See? Told you they spring away. Try to get it right near the ends. Compress it. I might have to change the pliers. Yeah. Or I'll try it from the top before I change the pliers. I'm trying to give as well a good view of the way I'm doing it, which hampers things a little bit. And I'm a bit of a klutz. Let's try a 45 set. See if that'll work. I mean, they do go in, but they just like to spring away like that, and you drop them. A couple more tries, then I'll just do it off camera if I don't get it. There we go. A little pin, and it'll zoom you in. How's that? Does that work pretty good? Not too bad. And we'll just get this to set into place. There's one side. And looks like the other side's already in. So there we go. That's that. We'll bring you back out just a little bit. And the next step, pretty straightforward, is to push this in place as so. I don't need that anymore. And there we go. In place. Not pushing on the tappets. I'll put a washer and a nut on one side. And a washer and a nut on the other side. Now, I did take number 2, and where I scratched on number 2 on the top here, so I know I've got the right barrel on the right side. And there we go. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll put all the nuts and washers on. I'll torque them. The torquing is to be 100 on number 1 and 2, and then they say to bring 3 and 4, 5 and 6 up to 100 foot-pounds, or sorry, inch-pounds, and then go back and redo it all again to 360 inch-pounds. So that's what I'll do. That went on very easy. I'll do the other side off camera, and then in the next segment what we'll do is we'll start putting the exterior bits on. That will be the points. I'll put the oil pressure relief and the oil pump on. We'll put the rear closure plate on, and then we'll put the oil pump on. And if the timing's right, because again I don't like going over, I'm not going to go over 15 minutes. If the timing's right, this will be the first point I use Loctite, and I'll give you my version of how to best use Loctite, some additional information on how it works, and I've got a little test set up to show you some of the pitfalls that you can run up against with Loctite if you don't use it properly. Alright, thanks again. We'll get this all buttoned up, we'll get the other side on, and we'll be back for another segment. See you later. Hello again, and we're back. So last time we left off, I was putting on the barrels, the jugs, the cylinders, whatever we want to call them. So I've got them both on now, both torqued up, and I was quite happy. It went on pretty straightforward, pretty simple for this type of rebuild. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on what they call the rear closure plate, the back plate. Before we can do that, we have to assemble a few bits. So there's a ball bearing here, and that forms part of the oil pressure relief. The ball goes in, and then the spring goes in as such. Next thing we need to do is put on the actual oil pump, and that's that right here. Okay, so that pretty much just slips in there as such. If you rotate the gear, it'll end up finding its pocket and go in pretty much like that. There we go. And it sits flush. Covering that goes a flat plate. Look at that. There's the word out. So they even tell me which way to put it. When I got the motor from that fellow I bought it from, completely disassembled, it was in fact missing these screws. So I just found myself a set of stainless steel screws that I figured were the approximate length I needed. It's inside the oil chamber section here, so don't really see any problem there. They're a fine thread, so they'll hold up really good. We'll put all 4 of those in, and we'll tighten them up. And then what we'll do is we'll put the closure plate on, and that goes on pretty straightforward with just the gaskets and 9 9 bolts. Get them good and tight. They don't specify a torque. There's no gasket. Presuming they don't mind a little oil leaking out around there. So next thing we'll do is we'll put on the gasket. Right there. That looks like the way it came off. A little dent from a screw in there from before. Gasket just sits on. All the surfaces I've cleaned up, so they're pretty much all free and clean. I'm not replacing seals. I don't need to. Every seal I've looked over looks in relatively good shape. So there we go. And 9 screws. We'll throw them in very quickly. I always hand turn in the screws if I'm going to use any kind of power, like a driver or a ratchet, power ratchet. Nothing worse than having a screw start off cross-threaded, right? So we'll throw them in quick enough. And take it from there. And I've got one more right there. Okay, well, snug these down. I will torque them off camera. No need for you to see me torque them. Okay,